Hi guys, my name is Peter and welcome to a new video. So in this video, we are gonna build a DevOps project entirely from scratch. So if you are a beginner or if you're learning about different DevOps concept, then this is a really good video wherein you can get your hands dirty and learn about different concepts in detail. So in this particular video, we are gonna deploy an application basically, and the different steps are, first of all, we'll be creating an S3 bucket. Then we are going to push our code onto that bucket. Then we are going to configure CloudFront, and finally we are going to set up a CI/CD pipeline so that our code will be synced between GitHub and S3 bucket. So don't worry, I'll be explaining all these steps in detail as we move through the video. So it's going to be an exciting and informative video. Watch till the end, and it would be great if you could follow along as well. So let's get started. So guys, the first step is to create an S3 bucket. So for that, let us go to our AWS console, and I'm gonna navigate to the S3 bucket section. And in this particular page, let us create a new bucket by clicking on the create bucket button. Alright, now here we need to provide a bucket name. So I'm gonna name it as CI-CD-tutorial-bucket, because we need to make sure that the bucket name is unique globally across all the different S3 buckets. At times it can be a bit difficult, and I can deploy it in any region that you want, and I'm going to leave all the other settings as default, and let us click on create bucket, and that is going to create a brand new bucket for us. So let us go into the bucket, and yeah, we have successfully created a bucket, but as you can see, this bucket is completely empty. And now we need to get on to step number 2, that is to push code into the bucket. So let us create some sample files like index.html, and let us push that into the bucket. So for that, I'm going to open up my terminal, and we clear this, and I'm going to move back to desktop, and I'm going to create a new directory called as CI-CD, and I'm going to move into that directory, and I'm going to create a file called as index.html. Alright, now I'm going to open up a new VS Code window, and here we have got a CI/CD folder, and I'm going to drag it right over here. Alright, so here in the index.html file, let us go for some simple HTML. So I'm going to enter exclamation mark, I'm going to press tab, and that is going to generate a simple HTML boilerplate. And here let us provide an h1 tag, and let us say hello world, and let us type in version 1. So let us save it. Alright, now we have got an index.html file, right? And now I think that we can simply put this index.html file onto our S3 bucket. So for that, let's go to S3. I'm going to click on upload right over here. I'm going to click on add files. Then in desktop, I'm going to go to CI/CD, and I'm going to open up this index.html file, and let's click on open and upload our index.html to our S3 bucket. And we have successfully did that. We have got our index.html file right over here. Now let's close this, and here you can see that our bucket is as of now private. It is not yet public, and it is a really important factor to consider that we should not make our bucket public. So if we make our bucket public, there is a high chance that a third-party person can access it, because there are numerous sites online wherein you can kind of scan through all the different publicly accessible S3 buckets. So in terms of a security perspective, it is always suggested to not make your bucket public. So as you can see that our bucket is not public. If you go to buckets right over here, you can see that buckets and objects are not public, which is written right over here. We are going to maintain this particular state. But if we don't make our bucket public, we can't really access the bucket, right? We can't really get into the bucket and view the index.html file. That is when CloudFront is going to come into the picture. So now it is time for us to configure our CloudFront. So CloudFront is nothing but it is a CDN, that is content delivery network. So it's going to cache our bucket into different edge points, so we can access it much faster with reduced latency. But another cool thing is that I'll show you how we can configure CloudFront, and then things will be much more clear. So let us open CloudFront in a new tab, and here I'm going to click on create distribution right over here, and here you need to choose an origin domain. So our origin domain is going to be our S3 bucket, so I'm going to choose our S3 bucket right over here, that is our CI/CD tutorial bucket. Alright, now name has been automatically filled in, and the origin access, this is the cool thing. So by default it is set to public, but we are going to change into origin access control settings, that is bucket can restrict access only to CloudFront. We're going to select that, which means that only CloudFront can access the S3 bucket. That is, any third party won't be able to access our S3 bucket. So now here we need to provide an origin access control. We don't have one, so we are going to click on create control setting, and that's it. We are going to provide a name, and our origin is going to be S3, and we are going to click on create. Yeah, that's it. And here you can see that you must update the S3 bucket policy. CloudFront will provide you with the bucket policy statement after creating the distribution, which means that once we create this distribution, then we need to come back and copy the policy. I'll show you how we can do that. Now that's it with the CloudFront. We are gonna change the viewer protocol to HTTPS only. Let us scroll down, and we are gonna not enable any security protections, and that's it. Let's click on create distribution, and right here we can see that the S3 bucket policy needs to be updated, and you can click on copy policy here. But if at any point if you miss this particular banner, then you can go to origins, then select your origin, click on edit, and now in this particular page, if you scroll down, you can copy the bucket policy from here as well. So I hope that you got it. Now let's go back to distributions, and if you see that our CI/CD origin distribution is still being deployed, it can take up to 5 minutes for this particular distribution to be created. So meanwhile we have copied the bucket policy. Let's update the bucket policy of our bucket. So let's go to permissions, scroll down, this is the bucket policy. Let's click on edit and paste our bucket policy right over here. So this bucket policy is nothing but this is basically telling our S3 bucket that if a request from this particular CloudFront comes in, do accept it. We have given the permission for this CloudFront to access the bucket. So that is all this particular bucket policy says, and let's click on save changes. All right, and now it is time for us to wait for our CloudFront distribution to be deployed, and we will get back after deployment is successful. Alright, finally the distribution is deployed. It took a solid 3-4 minutes to get deployed. Now let's open up our distribution, and here one major important thing to do is to update the default root object. So I'm going to click on edit right over here, and here if I scroll down, I'm going to name the default root object as index.html, because that is our entry point to the website. And after that, let's scroll down and click on save changes, and here we have got the distribution domain name. So if I copy it and if I run it, we are having an error. So if I refresh it, yeah, you can see that hello world version 1 is right over here. So S3 bucket received a request from this particular domain, and since we have kind of set up a CloudFront bucket policy with S3 bucket knew that this particular URL is already permitted to access the bucket details, and that is why it permitted it, and thus we have got the data from our index.html file. So things have been pretty exciting till now, right? So now we have configured our CloudFront, and now it is time for us to set up CI/CD pipeline, and we are going to do that using GitHub Actions. So now let us see how we can do that. So before that, we need to have a GitHub repository, right? So let's go to repositories and create a brand new repository right over here, and I'm going to name it as CI/CD-tutorial. All right, and yeah, now let's click on create repository. So now let's go back to our VS Code, open up the terminal and set up Git on this particular repository. So I'm gonna type in Git init. All right, and now let us set the origin. So I'm gonna copy this particular code from here, paste it right over here, and I'm gonna press enter. So our origin is set, which means that the local repository or the local directory is connected with this particular repository. Now let's go to source control. I'm going to stage it, and I'm going to give a message as first commit. Let us commit it and publish the changes. Now if I refresh it, we can see our index.html file right over here. And now it is time for us to set up our GitHub actions. So if I go to the actions section right over here, you can see that it is going to be completely empty because we haven't set up anything. So let us go back to VS Code now, and here we are going to set up our GitHub action. So it's going to be pretty simple. So what I'm going to do is that I want to create a new folder called as .github. So the naming convention should be exactly the same, only then GitHub can identify that this is the folder where the .yaml file is residing. So the .github folder has been created. Then I'm going to create another folder inside it called as workflows. Workflows, alright, workflows. So we have created a .github directory. Inside that we have created a workflows directory, and inside it we are going to create our YAML file. So I'm going to name it as ci-cd.yml. Alright. So now that we have created the YAML file, now it is time for us to configure the CI/CD pipeline. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to go to this particular repository right over here. And here you can see that we have got a small code snippet. I'm going to copy it from here and paste it right over here. And now I'm going to explain what this particular code means. So let us go to full screen. Let us save it. And I'm going to strip down this code and explain it step by step. So the first parameter right here is the name parameter, which is nothing but it is the name of this particular action. So I'm going to name it as upload website to S3 bucket. Alright. So we have provided a name for our GitHub action. Now we have got the second block over here. So this is the trigger, which means that on push to a branch called as master, do something. So that is what this particular block means. So this is nothing but this is a trigger. This trigger activates when some changes have been made to the master branch. Now when a change have been made onto the master branch, we need to perform this particular job. So this is what we are going to do. So here things are pretty simple. We have got a job. The name of the job is deploy. And here we have got a parameter called as runs on Ubuntu latest. So if you want to understand this, we need to kind of dig a bit deep into how GitHub action work internally. So whenever a GitHub action is triggered, what GitHub does is that it actually spins up a virtual machine. So from then on, anything that happens will be happening in an isolated environment that is inside this particular virtual machine. So here we are directly specifying that the virtual machine that I want to spin up is going to be of the OS Ubuntu. And after that, we are going to specify a set of steps, which means that uses actions / checkout master. So as I said before, we are kind of creating a virtual machine internally, not as GitHub in its backend is creating a virtual machine. And by default, this virtual machine is completely going to be empty. It is going to have a clean state. And this particular step right here, what it is going to do is that it is going to download the entire code from our master branch into this particular virtual machine. Simple. Virtual machine is going to be completely empty. So we need to have our code right. So this particular command is going to fetch or download the entire code from our master branch into this particular virtual machine. Alright. And this is nothing but it is going to run this particular repository. So this repository has got a certain code that helps us push our code from master branch onto S3 bucket. That's it. And for this to work, we need to have certain parameters, like we need to have our bucket name right over here. Then we need to provide our access key and secret access key of our S3 bucket. So if you don't know how we can get that, you can simply go to the security credentials section right over here, and you can create a new access and secret key. By then, I'm sure that you guys know about access and secret key. So in order to set up this particular environmental variables, we are again going to make use of GitHub actions or the secret environment of GitHub, which means that if I go to settings right over here, and if I go to secrets and variables, I can see an option called as actions. So here I can define all those variables, which means that I can click on create a new repository secret, and I can provide a name and a secret, which means that I can copy the AWS underscore S3 underscore bucket from here, paste it, then I can copy the name of the bucket from here and paste it as a secret and add secret. So this is going to be a secret, and just like this, you need to add in your access key ID and secret access key, and I'll do that just now and I'll get back. Alright guys, I have created all these different environmental variables, that is repository secrets in GitHub terms. So whenever this particular action or workflow is being run, GitHub can automatically refer to this particular data, and things are going to work fine. And here I'm going to change the AWS region. I guess that where have I put the bucket? So the bucket is deployed at this particular region, so I'm going to copy it and I'm going to paste it right over here. And here we need to provide the source directory, that is from where should GitHub fetch the data. So we have seen that the index.html is in the root directory, so I'm going to simply add in a /, which means that the data or the required files are in the current directory, and I'm going to save it. Also, I'm going to remove this comments from here. Alright, let's save it. So we have provided the name, we have provided the trigger on master branch, then we have defined the entire job. So I think that it is time for us to push this particular code onto GitHub. So before that, so this is our CloudFront domain I have opened up. If I refresh it, you can see that it is named as Hello World version 1. So let's make it as Hello World version 2. Let's save it, and now let us stage the changes. CI/CD update, and I'm going to commit the changes and I'm going to push the changes onto GitHub. Alright, now if I go to code, yeah, the commit is successful. And if I go to actions right over here, you can see that our all workflows are here. Then we have we can see the upload website to S3 bucket action. So if I click on it, you can see the CI/CD update. And if I go right over here, you can see that all the different jobs are being run. And just like that, I think that this is going to be a successful CI/CD integration. And we are having an error. So if I open it up, you can see that the index upload for index.html. Alright guys, our CI/CD pipeline was a complete disaster. You can see that upload failed. The reason is that the bucket does not support ACLs, that is access control list is not supported. The reason is that our bucket is not public, but in our GitHub action we try to make it as public read. So this is the reason why our CI/CD failed. So I'm going to remove that from here. Yeah, I'm going to save it, and let's go to index.html. I just made a slight change to see if it is going to work. Let us save it, and now let us commit it again, and this time it should be completely fine. CI-CD update, and now click on commit, sync changes, push it to the master branch, and this time it should be completely fine, I guess. So let's go to actions, CI/CD deploy. Now it's setting up the job and doing its work. Let us see if it is going to be successful or not. And just like that, our CI/CD pipeline is successful. Now the question is, what happens if I refresh here? As you can see, we have got the updated code. So which means that we have successfully created or established a CI/CD pipeline with our GitHub repository and S3 bucket. So whenever any change happens to the master branch, an action kicks in and the code will be updated onto our deployed S3 bucket. So this is how things work, and all these steps are successfully completed, and we have built a really cool project that you can share in your resume. and it is going to make a difference because now the recruiter is going to know that you have created a CI/CD pipeline and did all these things. So that's it guys, thanks a lot for watching. So if you have got any queries, you can put that in the comment section and I'll be more than happy to help. So once again, thanks a lot for watching and I'll see you guys in the next video.